Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CI/CD group conversation. You may be able to hear my voice is going a little bit, but so far so good. So I'm going to hang in there. Let's go ahead and get started. Sid, it looks like you have the first question.
Yeah, can you walk us through slide 7 and 8? That looks like interesting data, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Sure. So slides 7 is the overestimated SMAO slide. This is one that we've been working on doing a lot of work around getting better data, better events in there in order to really understand who's using the product. That was part of a nice effort that the growth team was leading. Unfortunately, the package data is still not fully integrated in there, which is why you're seeing packages just a tiny little sliver there, which isn't accurate. Oh, and then also the other thing to mention is that the October data is partial. There wasn't a big drop off for all of the stages in October. It's just the data is still being loaded. So otherwise, the metrics are looking good. We're still seeing growth in the categories on an ongoing basis. It'll be nice to get the package data in there. But verify, getting a lot of adoption. Release a bit slower. But we've got the releases feature that we're finishing up soon. It's going to be more in a viable state and nice to use, which I think is going to make a big difference there. One of the things that we did recently, or possibly it's coming out in this release, I apologize, I don't have that off the top of my head, is linking releases to milestones. So that makes it so that you can see you can find a release from an issue that's associated with a milestone. You can look at the burn down chart for a release associated with everything there. And it just really ties the data together in an interesting way. Features like automated release notes will come out of that. And it's really, really good stuff. Ori, do you have anything to add on the release side?
Yeah, so we have actually two features that we're working really hard now to help adoption. So release is one of them, and Jason mentioned association of milestone to release, but we also have other issues that are in that area, like actually creating a release from the GitLab CI YAML file, which is one of the issues that has the most upvotes and really needed. And also the beginning of evidence collection as part of release. So we're going to have a section on the release page that actually has evidence collection, and it's going to start collecting metadata of the release over there. When it matures, I guess it'll also have the actual binary information and the SHA, etc. But it's the beginning, so we're really excited to see where it's going. Another category that we're working hard on is now feature flags. So we delivered something viable, but now we're working really hard on dog fooding it, and we have a lot of feedback and reevaluating the UX and UI. So a lot of work is going towards that as well. So I expect there to be more adoption in those two categories.
Thanks. A question about slide 7. So on the right-hand side, it says month-over-month MAUI percentage change or MAU percentage change, and I think that's a graph that isn't shown. That's probably a line that isn't shown. Is that the case?
Yeah, it looks like there's a tick box there for showing that line. I'm not sure why the legend is structured in that way, but there is a line that you can turn on by choosing MOM.
But would that show the monthly active users or the stage monthly active users percentage change?
I'll have to check in Periscope.
That might be mislabeled. I'll consider having a look at that.
Mm-hmm. I'll follow up on that. Did that answer your question, Sid, on this slide, or does anybody else have any follow-ups before we move on to 8?
Answers mine.
Great. Yeah, 8 is a bit of a tough slide. What we're seeing here, just to explain, is the metrics about what's being delivered over the 12.0 releases for across CI/CD. 2 of the graphs are broken down. The 2 on the right are broken down per section, per stage, and then the one on the left is combined because there's no way to disaggregate the data for that one. or at least there wasn't an easy way to do it quickly before this. The deliverable items missed per milestone is how many items are receiving the deliverable label, but then ultimately not being delivered, and that's on an upward trend. The direction items delivered per milestone is actually, if you look at this, the averages are slightly down versus 12.0, but it's generally flat, which is the graph just below that one. And then direction items delivered per milestone per section member plots the growth of the team in red versus the direction items delivered per milestone per section member, and how that's trended down, unfortunately. The working theory is that this is related to onboarding and engineering, and that there should be a very sharp upward graph just to the right of this that we haven't quite achieved yet. But I am working with Darby and all of the engineering managers, and everybody's proactively engaged to try and figure out what exactly is going on here at a deeper level, and what we can do to address this as quickly as possible and get everybody up to speed, get everybody contributing and delivering great things. Darby, are you on the call? Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. You know, like Jason was saying, we've had a lot of new folks join, so there's kind of an onboarding component to it, and then just you know, I think we've had a number of folks who have kind of been in this area for a while, and they're kind of the experts. So when we bring in new people, they spend a lot of time supporting them and helping them ramp up on the code base and some of the complexity there. So we kind of see a little bit of hit in their productivity as well during that time. But you know, we're kind of getting through this, and I think we're moving to a good place soon. And part of another thing that was mentioned in here is the kind of experimenting with Kanban. I think changing the way that we sort of plan and iterate on things, I think, will help as well. So.
Yeah, and Jason, there's a request in the chat from Orit to share your screen so everyone can follow.
Sure.
I did it for slide 7 as a hint. I think we're going to make sure that these videos, if people watch the recording later on YouTube, they might not have access to the Google Doc. It's very inconvenient. If you talk about something, just show. Don't just tell.
Sure. Yeah. So these are the three graphs here that we were looking at. Unfortunately, now that I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the next question, so I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
There is no next question. Can you talk us to slide 16, maybe?
Yeah, 16. This one I will turn over to you, Orit.
Yes. So our saga with the merge trains is that we released merge trains in 12.1. It's a great feature. And we were happy to start dog fooding it. It took us, I guess, a little bit over a month to enable it on GitLab.com. That happened early September. And then shortly after we first enabled it, we needed to disable it because there were some issues that we found that were really stopping people from using it. So we decided to disable it, and we worked really hard on fixing those problems. And then we were happy to enable it again end of October. And while everything kind of seemed to be working as we wanted, we started getting complaints about people, about performance, about their merge requests taking a really, really long time to actually get merged on GitLab.com. It was just around the time we really needed to issue an urgent blog post. And so we went ahead and disabled it again. We did do a retrospective about this issue, and I linked it in the slide, so anyone who wants to visit it and comment is more than welcome to. But I think the most important thing that we learned here is, A, dog fooding is crucial because we got so much valuable feedback that we wouldn't have if we wouldn't have done that. And so as I think it's unfortunate that we had to disable the feature, in the long run, I think it was the right thing to do to enable it and then disable. What we did figure out was that the communication plan around when and where we're going to enable the feature again was a little bit lacking. So next time we're going to be sure to communicate it a little bit better, but also we're going to enable it for a fixed period of time and not forever. So people will know that it's going to be enabled for 2 or 3 days, and then we'll stop it just to see that everything's in order, and that people will know that to be patient on those 2 days, and also to give us more feedback. And additionally, we're planning on collecting performance metrics on GitLab.com after enabling and stabling to learn more about it. Now, Darby here also mentioned the items that we're working on in this current release, and we are going to enable it at the end of at some point in 12.6, hopefully before the end of it. And these are the most pressing issues that we had, which is supporting squash and merge. We heard that it was really, really confusing, and that it was missing like information if it's going to be merged or not going to be merged. And so those are really important. And another thing that we learned because of the blog post that had to go out urgently is that we also need to provide a mechanism for emergency merge requests to skip the line and be merged regardless to the train.
Thanks for that, Ori. One thing that I would add here is the, maybe it is included and it's just not listed here, but one of the patterns that we saw was that lots of people were skipping the train in order to just get their change in, which makes sense if you don't really understand how the merge train is working. But every time someone skips a train, it forces a recalculation of all of the pipelines that had run that were following it. So I guess one of the two options we should do is we either need to make sure that that's really clearly communicated when we turn the feature back on so that people aren't skipping the queue without realizing the impact that it's happening. Or we should make sure that that feature is included, so there's a little warning that says what the impact is of skipping the queue. Ideally, the second one, of course.
Cool. Is 2 or 3 days really the smallest thing we can test with?
So that's a really good question. We do think that GitLab.com is the right place to do it. So we also revisited if we can check other projects, but that one is the right one, we think. And I guess we could also turn it on for a certain amount of hours a day. So we can definitely discuss that offline.
And just to confirm a clarification, by turning the feature off and on GitLab.com, we don't mean in general, just on the www.gitlab-com project, the single project.
Yeah, the static website.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's refer to it in that way. Yeah, let's think of the smallest thing that could possibly work, which is probably turning it on for half an hour, and then go from there. If that doesn't cause an upset, let's go and go and go, and then we'll also get good at turning it off and on. What happens to a merge train when you turn the merge train feature off? A feature that I would love to see in GitLab is that if I've told something to merge, it merges at some point, and it will just rerun after 24 hours. It would just try rerunning the tests again and things like that, so that I don't have to check back and see whether it merged. I'm telling you to make that feature, but that's consider first getting good at turning it off and on, because if we're having these troubles, customers will have it with too little capacity and all those things. So making it easier to get out makes it easier to get in.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll definitely do that.
Okay, next question. Looks like Brandon. If Brandon isn't on the call, I can vocalize.
I am. Sorry. That was an extra mute. I have a double mute button.
Jason, can you stop screen sharing?
So on slide 15, I know we talked about a lot of the growth and ask for runners continues to grow. Wondering from this standpoint, they're tightly coupled a bit today in terms of both how we ship, as best I understand. is there any thinking in making this easier for the runners or for people to adopt or for us to move faster? I know just we end up with a lot of dependencies. So I'm wondering if that's one point of view. And then just maybe not bundling, but at least helping, say, a ARM64 developer come to GitLab, if we maybe put some opinionated ways together. And I kind of like the way Circle CI is kind of doing the orbs piece. I was just wondering if it's something you guys had looked at, and if so, what your thoughts were.
Yeah, for sure. So that actually is the goal, to make the runner more modular and to be able to be contributed on by our partners, by us, by consultants, or really just any contributor who wants to get involved and deliver something. So we recently delivered the custom executor, which is sort of enables this actually and lets you do all kinds of different execution methods that can then themselves enable new kinds of integration models. So a good example of this is like all of these different platform supports. Those can all be implemented in the custom executor. You can even do very silly things like as a side project, I have a Commodore 64 executor running. It's just like a silly thing, but like it shows the power of like my GitLab CI YAML is in Commodore Basic now, which is, you know, if that was a real thing, then it would be a pretty powerful thing. So if you replace Commodore 64 with something like ARM or other platforms, then it becomes really powerful. So we are planning on growing the runner team. It's a priority there. You're also involved in helping to finalize some work in getting some additional help on the runner side to deliver some of these things that are more short-term priorities. But beyond getting through this kind of glut of things that we're trying to deliver now around the Windows shared runner fleet and the Vault integration and other of these special projects, once we get past that, we are going to have used this infrastructure that we built to make things more modular so that we don't have the same problem where we're trying to push all this stuff through simultaneously. And then in terms of things like orbs and you know, actions or anything else like that, other kind of like container-based execution models, all of that is implementable using this custom executor as well. In fact, I found a command line tool that can run a GitHub action as a, just from the command line. So I was also going to try and write a custom executor to see if it could just like natively run GitHub actions and see what that does. Yeah, may not get too far with that. We'll see how that works. But all of this kind of stuff is possible with the infrastructure that the runner team has built, which is great. We just have a short-term kind of number of people problem to contribute.
Would love to, when you guys are ready to blog or talk about it, let's plan ahead of time and see. I'd love to get some people from a bunch of different groups to talk about the custom executor and why it was useful. So maybe we can get like ARM and Fargate and, you know, a couple different ones in there whenever y'all are ready, maybe just to really have a reference point, because I think it's awesome. I don't think it's as well understood. Yeah. I understand it okay, but not great. So this would be a great place. I'd love to partner with you guys, but thank you for the context.
Yeah, of course. A simple way to think about it is a custom executor lets you override the internal steps that the runner does, like provisioning, the execution, the cleanup, the all of that stuff. So you can make it really do anything and then get the results back in the expected format. And we actually do have a really great example of somebody who's built something already using the custom executor. A customer built it, so I'll share it with you privately afterwards. But there is a really cool win so far. It will be great to get some of these other ones as well, and we can talk about those. But we already have examples here, which is nice.
Jason, just a follow-up question. I hope you can hear me. How does custom executors compare to device labs that all these IoT development companies use?
Well, I guess I'm not familiar with the device labs that they're using, but is it just like kind of like the mobile device labs where?
Pretty much, yeah. It's just a test bed where they can run and execute things.
So that should all also be doable through here. The provisioning thing is what you would override, and you would provision the right testing device using the runner from your pool, and then do the tests that are needed against it. If any custom code is required there, then that's fine. And then the results can come back. So yeah, that's maybe another really interesting use case to explore.
Right, thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions or follow-ups? Or does anybody on the CI/CD team, would you like to share anything? Well, thank you everybody so much for your time. It's always nice to have these conversations. We always find a couple little interesting conversation threads to follow up on afterwards. So thanks a lot.
Jason.